Do you ever wonder what renters really care about? Who the typical renter really is? What drives some renters to go and find a new apartment or to stay in the one they're in? Well, good news, you are about to find out. I'm Amanda Pendleton. I'm Zillow's home trends expert. I'm excited to walk you through some of the notable findings from this year's Rentals Consumer Housing Trends Report. Now, as you may know, this report is a pretty incredible resource. It is data from our most comprehensive national survey of 36,000 recent and tenured renters. And today, I'm going to cover some of the highlights, including the changing demographics of the typical renter and why they're renting longer, who they're shopping with, and that includes their four-legged family members, what's most important to them today, how and where they're shopping for a rental, and what this all means for you, for your business, how you're reaching new renters, and how you're showing up for your existing tenants. So let's begin with the one big change our research uncovered this year. It's got pretty wide-ranging impacts. Renters are older than ever before. Now, when I picture a typical renter, I'm thinking of a young adult, someone who's fresh out of college, just moved out of mom and dad's basement. Well, this year, the median age of a renter is 42 years old. That's up from 40 last year. And that median age has been gradually ticking up over time. Now, renters do still skew younger than the general population. About half of them are under the age of 40. But 42 is a meaningful shift. It means renters are staying in the rental market longer, or they're returning to renting as they age. And while older renters might hold home buying as a goal, this year they weren't feeling as optimistic about it. In 2024, the number of recent renters who said they're thinking about buying dropped in a pretty significant way. You can see a couple of big jumps in the past couple of years, particularly between 2021 and 2022, when those ultra-low mortgage rates made it easier for a lot of renters to become buyers. But this year, renters are feeling much less confident they'll be able to make that leap. And it's understandable, right? We've got high mortgage rates, low inventory. It's tough out there. These conditions have made renting more affordable than buying in most major markets. And we're seeing this reflected both in the higher median age of a renter and in this drop in confidence for potential buyers. So will this trend continue? Now, it is possible changing conditions could put homeownership back on the table, especially for those older renters. 37% of renters told us they'd be very likely to buy a home if mortgage rates fell. But we also know conditions are not going to change overnight. The reality is that buying a home, saving up for that really big down payment, has become increasingly out of reach for a large share of renters, and so they're sticking with renting as they age. Now, if people are renting longer, does it mean they're also putting off some of those other adulting milestones, like moving in together, getting married, or getting a pet? Well, in a word, no. They're just doing all those things as renters. Case in point, renters are often living with a spouse or a partner. Among renters who reported co-shopping for their new place, the highest share, 31%, reported searching with a spouse or with a partner. Most renters also aren't waiting for that white picket fence before they become pet parents. Nearly 60% of renters have a pet, whether that's a dog, a cat, or they check that mysterious other pet box. Now, that's a pretty dramatic increase from pre-pandemic, when fewer than half, only 46% of renters reported having a pet. So it should be no surprise that when potential renters are looking at a property, 60% consider it essential that a rental be pet-friendly. Nearly half said they passed on a particular property because it didn't allow pets. And almost a third told us that they skip a listing if it mentions restrictions on pet breed or size. What else did we learn? The vast majority of renters have one top concern: budget. Now, this was nearly unanimous. 95% of renters said staying within their initial budget was essential. That was more important than any other characteristic we asked about, including preferred neighborhood or location, preferred number of bedrooms, bathrooms, or even broadband internet. And the importance of staying on budget has been ticking up over the past 3 years. Now, budget was also the #1 consideration for renters who chose not to move. For those renters who didn't move in the last year, nearly 3 out of 4 said it was because their current rental was a good deal, and more than 2/3 said it was because they couldn't afford to move somewhere else. Over and over and over again in our survey, renters stressed the importance of affordability and transparency. Nearly all of them agree rental listings should clearly list all fees. 3 out of 4 said that fees should be included in the total rent, as opposed to charged separately. And about 2/3 said that seeing lease terms, rent amount, and fees were essential to their search. The last topic we're going to dive into is how and where renters are searching for their next home. Now, for those of us who are glued to their phones, and I am guilty of this too, this shouldn't be a shock. Mobile is king. In 2019, more renters were still searching on their laptop or their desktop. Well, that all changed in 2022. Mobile took over the top spot, and that continues today. In fact, 75% of recent renters said they searched for their new home on their phone. Now, no matter how they search, it's clear they're using digital tools to assess your property. The pandemic brought upon the rise of the sight unseen renter. Now, we thought that would all change once people felt comfortable going back to in-person tours, but it turns out this is a lasting trend. 1 in 5 renters take 0 in-person tours today. You're going to see it in this graph. Back in 2018, 16% of renters were taking 5 or more in-person tours. Well, that number has dropped by nearly half. Well, we see the number of renters in that 1 to 4 tour category growing. And while we saw that 0 tour category rise in 2021 during the pandemic, as you would expect, it has remained pretty steady for the last 2 years. And so we think that could mean it's here to stay. Now, you probably heard about this from your on-site teams. Renters aren't just wandering by or walking into your leasing office. They have done their homework online. They've winnowed down their search to 1 or 2 properties, and by the time they get to you, they're looking to make their final decision. That's an entirely different leasing conversation, right? And your leasing agent should know how to answer questions and to close with someone who's at this late stage of the funnel. Okay, let's do a quick recap of some of the key lessons we learned about renters in 2024. Lesson number 1, renters are getting older. A challenging housing market has meant that more and more renters are putting off that dream of buying. Now, that means multifamily has a bigger potential audience than ever before. But it also means that you may want to rethink what you're doing to better appeal to older renters. When it comes to development and construction, should you be thinking about more 2 or 3 bedroom options? Or what about the amenities that you offer? How about adding a pet washing station or a turfed pet area? Maybe it could mean a change in approach for your marketing and your leasing teams. Are you talking about the value and the convenience of renting versus buying? Could you consider appealing to that would-be buyer by helping renters build their credit through on-time payments? Or think about more flexible lease terms? Lesson number 2, their top concern is budget. Money is tight. Everything is more expensive, right? So staying on budget is the #1 priority for renters today. And that includes considering total costs and fees, what they're really gonna need to spend to live in your property. So keep that in mind as you consider pricing and transparency. Now, maybe this is an opportunity to lean into the value your community provides. Hey, you don't have to pay a gym membership. We have a fitness center right here. Or maybe transparency could be a point of differentiation between you and your competition as a way to build loyalty and build trust with your audience and even reduce turnover. And finally, lesson number 3, digital wins. Renters are searching on their phone, so make sure you're taking a mobile-first approach. That includes your website, your advertising, even things like your application and your other online forums. Prioritize the right places to list. Are you going to show up where the most renters are searching? And finally, dig deep on the quality and the completeness of your listings. Remember, 1 in 5 renters will not even come and take an in-person tour. So can you trust that your online listing has all the information they'll need to choose your property? These are just some of the insights you're going to find in Zillow Rentals' 2025 Consumer Housing Trends Report. Check out the full report at the link in the description box below, and I promise there is so much more goodness packed inside. I hope this overview and this report help unlock data and learnings that empower you to make better, more informed decisions. Please like this video and subscribe to our channel if you want more helpful insights from Zillow Rentals. And thank you for watching.